Mr. Mayor, we are live and ready.
All right. Whoa. We're good to go. All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is a joint work session of the Seldovia City Council and the Seldovia Planning Commission, Monday, December 16th, 2024. Time is 5:02 p.m. And we have one discussion topic item on the agenda tonight, and that's safe streets and roads for all. And we are going to have a presentation this evening. And I think Van Lee is going to start us off, I believe.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Juan Lee with R&M Consultants, and I have Joni Wilm here and Michael Baker, from Michael Baker and then Michael Bell here from R&M with me, supporting the presentation. So I am going to share screen and then we'll get going on the presentation. Thank you. Okay, I think everyone can see the presentation. Yes, Joni?
Yep, nope, looks good.
Good.
Yep, it's good. Good here.
All right, awesome. Let me just, for bandwidth, make sure I've got my. Okay, you can still hear me, so great. So thanks everyone. So we're here to present to you on the Kenai Peninsula Borough Safe Streets for All SS4A Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. Our project managers from the KPB are Robert Ruffner, Selena Robinson, and Brenda Albert. Okay, just a little recap of what we've done so far in terms of public outreach. We had our second set of public meetings in September. We visited the communities of Seward, Kenai, and Homer, and we did in-person public workshops. And we're here tonight with you to do the virtual workshop version for Seldovia. Okay, our meeting goals for today are to present to you the findings of the public workshop, crash analysis, some of the themes that we've heard so far from the public, meetings we've had with planning commissions, advisory planning commissions, a survey, and then here's some suggestions on some countermeasures, which is a term that the SS4A program calls solutions. Just a quick agenda. We have some introductions. We're going to give an overview. Joni's going to talk about some of the themes that we've heard, and she's also going to present some of the findings from the survey. We had a very good survey response rate, so that's really helping to inform the plan. I'm going to go over some of the crash statistics that we have so far based on data collection, and then we're going to do a little activity with you so that we can get your feedback as well. So we're R&M, so I'm Juan. We have Michael with us. We have a couple other planners that are supporting us as well as engineers, Brian Gensel and Beth McKibben. We have our national experts, Fair and Peers. They are safety planning experts, and they've been helping us with the data analysis and data collection to inform the plan and the countermeasures. And then, of course, we have Joni here with us as well from Michael Baker. Okay, so a little overview on the purpose, the schedule, and what the safety plan entails. It's a transportation safety plan, and it's comprehensive in that it looks at all different elements of transportation safety. And it's this project is funded by the SS4A grant. It's a discretionary grant program, federal grant through the bipartisan infrastructure law through the U.S. Department of Transportation. And the program is very data driven. It's related to transportation, fatalities, serious injuries, and ways to reduce fatalities and injuries. And it's comprehensive because it's taken a systems-wide approach, and it's data driven in that we learn from the community, the public, the crash statistics, and all the different safety agencies, including DOT. We've lots of stakeholder input as well as industry input. So why do we need a comprehensive safety plan? For the Kenai Peninsula Borough in the 5-year period between 2016 and 2021, there are 14 non-motorist fatalities and serious injuries. And in the 2-year period, There was a driver and a passenger that were killed while slowing in a school zone, as well as a pedestrian vehicle crash that resulted in a pedestrian fatality. In smaller communities, such as in the Kenai, it's likely that you will have heard of these fatalities or know someone. And, school zones, for example, you may have children in the school zone. So these are very important statistics to really understand the underlying reason why a comprehensive safety action plan is needed, to help to identify the issues as well as find ways to address the statistics here and how we can reduce these numbers. During a 5-year period, Kenai Peninsula Borough had 238 fatal and serious injury crashes, both from motorists and non-motorists. And of course, having a safety action plan would set up the Kenai Peninsula Borough and all the partner cities to be able to apply for implementation funding, which is design and construction, as well as additional planning, funding, and studies. Just a quick note on our schedule and timeline. We will have a comprehensive safety action plan completed by June of 2025. We've been working with several different communities, all the public, the survey, data gathering. We've had the website up, we've done focus group meetings, we had a safety forum. So lots of engagement to inform the plan. Our plan is to have another meeting in January, at the end of January, to come up with the recommendations and to present that to the public. That will be a virtual meeting, so we will make sure that that email and that link goes out to anyone who'd like to join us in going over the plan. And then we will have a third set of workshops for the draft plan and also a comment period on the draft plan recommendations. Okay, the safe systems approach, I mentioned that earlier. So this is a comprehensive piece. It's looking at a number of different things and not just looking at the roadway design. It's looking at safe streets. It's looking at safe speeds. What happens for post-crash care? That is critically important to ensuring that after a crash that the response rate is high so that people can get treated for injuries that they may have. Safe road users, so behavioral issues and how we can address that through a number of factors. And then safe vehicles, or the vehicles, do they meet safety standards for being on the road? Okay, so a little summary of what we've done so far. And then Joni will go into some details about what we've learned through the survey. So we've done 2 sets of workshops. This is like the second set. We'll have a third set, like I mentioned, for when we have a plan drafted. 9 presentations and discussions so far with advisory planning commissions and planning commissions, meetings with city staff from the different partner cities. Our survey got 728 responses. That's a very, very good response rate for the borough. We've had, I mentioned the public workshops, we've had a safety forum, and we've done 3 or 4 focus groups so far, specific to certain topics related to safety planning. Okay, survey results, what we heard from the community. And Joni, I can keep advancing your slides, just let me know.
Okay, thank you, Juan. Yeah, it looks like we got a note too about your audio. Maybe just turn up your speaker if you can, or talk a little bit louder when you come back in.
Okay.
But yeah, so thank you, Juan. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about the survey results that we got doing this plan. And so it was a really, really good response, as Juan mentioned. The survey was open from April 29th through June 7th. It was available on the project website. We handed out physical copies in Homer, Soldotna, and Seward at our public workshops, our in-person public workshops that we held in May. There were also 300 paper copies that were made available in Nikiski, Kenai, and Soldotna Borough and city offices. And we did collect some back, some public or paper copies back. Next slide, please. As far as who was taking the survey, so these were the age groups that we found. So most folks between the ages of 36 let's say 26 to 75. So it was a pretty good spread of folks. Also, here was the ethnicity breakdown. So as you can see, we had 35 American Indian or Alaska Native folks, 5 people who identified as Asian, 6 Black or African Americans, 13 Hispanic or Latino people, 2 Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander, 543 who identified as white, 20 other people who identified as other ethnicity, and then 131 people preferred not to answer that question. Next slide. As far as gender and identity, so 57% of our responders were female and 30% were male. 1% identified as non-binary, and then 12% identified as other. Next slide. And here you can see the spread of where we got our results from. So again, really good representation from all over the Kenai Peninsula Borough, but especially in the cities of Soldotna and Kasilof and Kenai and Homer and Cooper Landing and Anchor Point, as well as all over. So great job responding to this survey. 688 of those responders identified as interested residents, 15 identified as interested non-resident workers, so people who are there seasonally. 6 were an interested visitor or tourist. 19 were transportation professionals, and 8 were safety professionals. Next slide. And then, so just to recap, this is just a very broad overview of what we found, but in general, we asked folks what would make it more likely for you to feel comfortable walking in your neighborhood. And these were the top 5 answers that we received. So number 1, and they're in order of the scores that they got. So number 1, the most popular thing people wanted to see were off-street multi-use pathways. Number 2 were sidewalks that were well maintained in all seasons, especially in wintertime. Number 3 was safe, conveniently located sidewalks. Number 4 was more destinations within walking distance. And the 5th was more marked pedestrian crossings. Next slide, please. And so we asked the same question basically, but for biking. So what would make you feel more comfortable to bike in your neighborhood? So again, coming in at the number 1 position was the off-street multi-use pathways, followed by bike facilities that are well maintained, on-street or protected bike lanes, better visibility between drivers and bicyclists, especially at intersections. Intersections are known to be a problem point, especially with right-hand turns, or right hooks, as they call them. And then finally, reduce traffic and vehicle speeds. Next slide. And so we also asked people what would help to prioritize safety. So what do you think we should do to help make that a priority in this community? And number 1 response that we got, as you can see, was to promote road design that supports the built environment or supports what's happening next to it, or the land use element. Number 2 was stronger enforcement, followed by safety education and safe messaging or safety campaigns. Then we had walking, biking audits, and then finally driver's ed refresher courses. Next slide. And then asking folks what they thought the biggest challenges were to roadway safety. Again, coming up in the number 1 position is this limited places to walk and bike that are separated from vehicle traffic. So that separation is coming back again. Number 2 was inadequate maintenance. Maintenance was a big thing. Unsafe driving behaviors, lack of safe bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, inadequate funding for safety improvements, inadequate lighting, long emergency response times, and then access to safe evacuation routes all through the Kenai Peninsula Borough. Next slide. And then so we also asked people, if we only had so much money to invest, where do you think we should invest it? What would give us the most bang for our buck? So number 1 on that list was maintenance. So investing in winter maintenance of roads and sidewalks. Number 2 was adding to and maintaining the trail network. Number 3 was maintaining sidewalks and bicycle lanes, 3 and 4. And then investing in safe road design, enforcement, also another big key investment option. Addressing impaired driving, safer intersections, addressing speeds, safe routes to school, and finally, safety education. Next slide. And then finally, we asked folks to tell us where their biggest safety concerns were. So this is a map showing all of the pinpoints that people identified on the survey, so the online survey and the paper survey. So these orange dots represent, or red dots represent where their issues of concern were. And the next slide shows us what all of those dots together, what the common themes were between all of these point positions. So we asked them where their issue was, and then these were the actual issues that they were concerned about. So number one, most common issue was a concern about speed or unsafe speed. Number two was concerns with pedestrian safety. Number three was unsafe crossings. Number four was road maintenance. And number five was poor visibility. And that was the last question from the survey. And I'm just going to do this slide real quick, and then Juan's going to go into the data. And so this is just an overall theme that we got for the workshop from workshop 1. So this is separate from the survey. But overall themes that we heard from the community were a desire for better bike and pedestrian infrastructure, wider shoulders, more lighting. We did hear a lot about acceleration and deceleration and turning lanes. Poor sight distances, traffic congestion was a big one, especially in the Kenai Peninsula Borough, in Soldotna, and other areas where people are just moving through during the fishing season and festival season. Speed, winter maintenance, school zone safety, both speed and congestion, safety at highway commercial nodes, impaired driving, pedestrians crossing at areas where they shouldn't be crossing or not having a place to cross, lack of enforcement, and then concerns with specific intersections and stretches of road in the Kenai Peninsula Borough. And then most importantly for this group tonight, here are some themes that we heard in Seldovia specifically, and those are concerns with Jackaloff Bay Road. So we're going to show you a little bit of data about injuries and crashes there, a need for more bike and pedestrian infrastructure, and then finally impaired driving. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Juan, who's going to talk to you about the crash data.
Yeah, thanks, Joni. I hope everyone can hear me better. Yeah, we're good. Okay, great. I'm sitting a little closer to my mic now. So the crash data is a 5-year period. The data is from DOT. We have a little disclaimer here because it's informational for planning purposes from the period of 2018 and 2022. These are reported crashes. So our initial overview, we have this great data dashboard. There's a link here to the safety plan website if you haven't been there yet, but there is a link on there also to this data dashboard, and you can query yourself for all the different types of data that you're looking for, location, injury types, roadway characteristics. So we're just giving you an overview. I won't read all the slides, but if you're really curious to dig in a little deeper, you can use the data dashboard and look at certain types of data. And we'll have a slide on Seldovia here coming up, but just generally overview. There were over 5,400 crashes in that 5-year period from 2018 to 2022. 5% of those were fatal or serious injury crashes, and 25% were injury crashes. At least 1% involved pedestrian or bicyclists. And of that, 27% were fatal or serious injury crashes. 67% of that were the injury crashes. And then 2% involved a motorcyclist. And of those, 51% were fatal or serious injury crashes. And 42% of that number were injury crashes. Okay, so a little more detail about where those crashes are. I had the map up so you can see all the red, and it's the same map that Joni had up earlier. But outside of the city boundary is the major areas. And then within the cities, there's Seward, Homer, Soldotna, Kenai that are showing up as kind of clusters of where these crashes are. Obviously, bigger population centers, more crashes reported there, more conflicts. Seldovia is not on here because you actually only have a few crashes, but we'll get to that slide to show you kind of the severity or where those crashes are and why that's important to understand. Quickly, we have a little bit of data on Kenai, Soldotna, and Seward, but the dark, the navy color on here on the map and on the chart are killed or seriously injured. So that's kind of the issues there, the fatalities or seriously injured. We also use the terms KSI, and that's what that stands for, killed or seriously injured. The dark orange is injured, and then the light orange is there was a crash, but there was no injury. And then there's some color that shows no information. So there was a crash, but we don't have additional information on it. Soldotna, I think the big picture for all these charts we're going to show is that it's trending down a little bit between 2018 through 2020 and 2022. As you can see, like there were higher crashes and then it started to go down. It's trending down, especially with killed or seriously injured here in 2022 in Soldotna. For Seward, no killed or seriously injured, no KSIs. After 2018 to 2022, no killed or seriously injured. That's the navy color that you're seeing. So that's great. We want to see that trend down to 0. I think the goal for safety is get down to 0 injuries and or seriously injured or killed. Homer, again, the trend is down in terms of killed or seriously injured, and also just crashes and injuries related to that. Okay, so this is your slide, Seldovia. You had 4 collisions, and we didn't represent this in a chart because it doesn't show up very well in a chart because you've only had 4 collisions. Not only, but there's 4 collisions. 2 resulted in injury, 1 in 2018 and 1 in 2019. There were 2 collisions in 2019 and 2020, but did not result in an injury. And then none of the crashes were from individuals suspected of being under the influence of substances. Earlier, you saw the summary that Joni had that like impaired driving or substance was involved in some of the crashes. Fortunately, that was not the case here for the 4 collisions that were reported for Seldovia. But we did note that Jackaloff Bay Road had 3 KSI, so 3 killed or seriously injured from 2018 and 2022. So you can see on the map, and Michael will zoom into the Seldovia map next when we have our group activity that we want to do with you. But you can see the locations of where the crashes were that had killed or seriously injured on Jackaloff Bay Road. Okay, so little information on what kind of crash types. So property damage, pedestrian or bicyclists were hit. There were people running to parked motor vehicles. The dark blue in this case, or the blue is no injury. The navy again is killed or seriously injured. And then the orange is injured. So for the most part, the lighter blue, not the navy, is good news. There was a collision, there was a crash, but there were no injuries. Rollovers, overturns is some of the crash types, and also live animals. Hitting live animals on the highway, for example, is also reported as one of the bigger crash types. So what are the crash circumstances? So were you rear-ended? Was it an angle crash? So that's what this chart is showing us. Again, dark navy is killed or seriously injured. No injury is the blue, so that's bigger, which is what we want to see. And then orange is there is an injury. And then the dark orange is that there's no information on like more details on that type of crash. This is head-on, angle, sideswipe, rear end, and then there's unknown. And then driver action. What was the driver doing at the time that the crash happened? Backing up, for example, going straight, turning movements, negotiating a curve, turning right. So this is the data that we have from DOT just to show the different types of what the driver was doing at the time of the crashes. A little bit of data on gender. So you can see over 52% of the crashes reported were from males, as opposed to just under 48% for female. The no injury, that's a high number right there. As you can see, it's broken out in between male and female, killed and seriously injured. An injury happened, no injury, and then no information is the orange. Okay, so we have a couple of group activities. The first one, Michael is going to tee up. So I'm going to stop sharing so he can share his screen here. But we want to know where and why you would invest your resources. So it's the exercise we do with the public. So if you could put funding towards which one of the themes or areas that you feel like would have the most bang, where would that be? So Michael, if you're ready, I'm going to stop sharing so you can bring the mural up. All right, great. Liz, since we can't see people in the room very well, if somebody has a comment and they want to speak, that would help us.
Yeah. I was gonna say too, do you want me to go go around the room or go around with all the names and have people make suggestions?
Yeah, we can just open it up to like we typically do. If someone does have something something on their mind, or if they want to share, if that works for you guys.
That'd be great.
Okay, and we're just ready to open and go freely here then.
Yeah.
Okay, so the idea here is to tell us where and why you would invest your resources, and this is specific to Seldovia, or this is Kenai Peninsula wide.
It is both. You can focus on Seldovia. So we have the Seldovia map up, and then we have the Kenai wide map up as well.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go and open it up to council. So as obviously you guys, I mean, when your local drives, your drives out the road, your drives to Anchorage, I mean, all of us have had harrowing experiences on our drives. So anything that comes to mind, where and why we would invest in certain areas of the.
I actually have two, Mayor Campbell.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
One is out Jackaloff Road, that wash away, that's washed about a third of the roadway away. The whole hillside's fallen off. I'd like to see the state do something with that before we're cut off completely from Jackaloff. That's the first one. And then the second one is I make those monthly trips, as you know, to Anchorage. And most of the time when I travel, I just made the turn and burn, and it was all in the dark. And the issue for me is I'm an older driver, it's harder to see at night. And the brush is getting pretty tall. The setback brush along the highway on both sides is getting pretty tall. And I know it's on a cycle, so many year cycle that they go in there and brush that. But my first experience of that was with the Alaskan highway, and the importance of that brush being down and being able to see animals before they get to the road. So that's the other concern, is down here on the peninsula, between Homer and Kenai, and then north as well.
Okay,
That's it.
so we got 3 from John. Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Ashley?
Alternative multi-use pathways, and that would be specifically in Seldovia and in Homer for those of us that tend to be on foot a lot in both places as we're doing our traveling back and forth. Here, obviously, down like Main Street and such, when we get really busy, we've been talking about that in the summer, but also in Homer is somebody who doesn't always keep a vehicle over there, but goes over. I walk between the airports a lot, or from the airports into town. And there's a lot of space there where everybody's always stops and goes, "Can I give you a ride?" I'm like, "Well, I want to be on foot." Like we have like layover times, but it definitely is not, there's nowhere to walk. And we're stuck doing that if you don't have a vehicle or want to pay for a taxi cab to go around.
Okay, thanks, Ashley.
If I may.
Anybody else?
Yep.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, Vivian.
Hi there. Hey, for Seldovia, for our community, I think, as I've seen in many of these slides, pedestrian sidewalks are vitally important to get that done for Seldovia. Many times living on Main Street, over and over, seeing people on the road or bicycles in the road and near misses, and thank goodness people drive super slow. So there hasn't been incidences, but I think being able to get pedestrian sidewalks in town would be great for Seldovia. And then identifying jackaloff, what the issues are with jackaloff. I think that would be vitally important. And as Ashley said, I think ditto with pedestrian traffic and bicycle traffic in Homer is also important, I think, to Seldovians. And I'm not sure if the highway up to Anchorage, if they've improved. I know it's hard to keep the white lines on the road, but I know back when I used to drive a lot, that was always a concern about not being able to see those white lines. But okay, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. Yeah, I just want to echo too real quick on the striping and the white lines. I'm like John. I live here full time. I work in Anchorage, so I commute quite frequently, either flying or driving. And the driving, there's many a time when I've only been able to see the road only by what the little of the white line remains at night. To me, that would be the number one most important thing almost. I mean, it is harrowing. The other thing is it's not on here directly, but the newer lighting standards now with the LED lighting driving at nighttime is horrific. The blindness that you experience from opposing traffic, it is absolutely terrible. And I don't know if it's an enforcement thing with people going crazy with their lights, or if maybe it's just we're getting old. I don't know what it is. K-Beach, we stay with friends out there periodically. That also, like John said, there's certain areas towards this end when you come back to the Sterling Highway where the brush is really bad out there. There's a ton of moose on that road, as well as caribou. And then with very piss poor cellular service between here and Anchorage, primarily from Summit Lake. We used to have it all the time. Now it's fairly terrible out there. Really hit or miss, and then all the way through the worst desolate section is the Hope section. That is awful. There's no service in there. So I know there's a new cellular tower there at Silvertip, but it doesn't seem to really matter. I don't know if that's even in use or not. So yeah, those are a couple things that are on my mind. Anyone else? Roger?
Yeah, I like going to Anchorage. You always run into somebody that's going way too fast. So I think, I mean, if there was more, and you hardly ever see a cop. So if that speeder thought maybe there's a cop out there, in certain areas, you might slow down a little bit, but you hardly ever see any cops out there.
Yeah, it's hit or miss on the speed enforcement for sure. Yep, I would agree. Anyone else? Yep, we got a member of the public here. Yep, we'll give you a mic here real quick so they can hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, Paul Seco, live in Seldovia. I missed some of the conversation. Apologies, but I'd like to second Ashley's comment about safe sidewalks and multi-use path down here in town would make the place a lot more walkable and safe for kids behind all the cars that are parked there. A truck that's 4 or 5 feet high in the back. You can't see a kid backing up. Might not fit in our community, but back in angled parking is something that other people do. It's a safer solution. You back in at an angle to park along a roadway. You're not moving fast, and you've driven past the place you're going to park before you back in. So generally there's nobody there. And as you pull out, you're facing traffic. So you're not pulling out into traffic or people. And that could be potentially a solution. That's all.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Harmony, I see your hands up.
Hey, thank you. I would like to also echo the multi-use walking situation here in Seldovia, and Homer's a lifelong walker. I've walked the road many a time with a toddler over there in Homer, and it's always a thrill. But I would also like to see some more signage here in Seldovia. The Main Street is actually state highway, so we as a community do not have direct jurisdiction over what type of signage goes up, and we increasingly have more issues with how people park in the summer. It increases the traffic hazard both on foot and for motor vehiclists in the highest congestion areas. So I think some updated signage and safer places to walk for the community at large.
Okay,
Also, I would
go
like
ahead.
to echo the mayor's comment about those horrific LED lights people use. I'm not that old, and it is a totally outrageous when you can't see for a good 5 to 10 seconds after getting passed by somebody with those lights. That's not tenable.
No, it's a real thing. I mean, it's frighteningly real. So, I mean, you're literally blind when those lights come at you. So, Heidi or Liz, you guys got anything that comes to mind?
Well, I just wanted to point out, and I was in a focus group earlier and I did mention that, especially seeing the statistics on Jack Lop. And I know that we focus here at the city council level and planning commission level on multi-use pathways in town, but it's certainly would like to bring up that a multi-use pathway along Jack Lop Bay Road would be beneficial for the community.
Thanks, Heidi.
Heidi.
Liz?
Go ahead, Harmony.
Sorry about that, Mr. Mayor. That was something that I brought up when we originally had this discussion. The Jackaloff pathway does not exist currently and would be highly beneficial to the community at large. We have that. We have the Jackaloff dock. We have many people who come into that dock who never even make it all the way into town. They ride their bikes, they walk, they hike, they berry pick. We have a road going in that'll be accessed from Jackaloff to the other side of the peninsula, and having that pedestrian traffic walkway would be hugely impactful on the community at large, both now and in the future.
Perfect. Go ahead, Liz.
I guess I just wanted to echo sidewalks for Main Street and alternative pedestrian pathways. I think it's a pretty dangerous situation in the summer here on Main Street and other streets in town with bikers and children and cars, and it's kind of a recipe for a collision between one or more of those things. So the sidewalks or alternative pedestrian pathways, especially on Main Street, be something I would focus on.
Okay. Anyone else, Randy?
This is Randy Sweet. Again, kind of reiterating on the controlling pedestrian traffic in town, possibly putting not only sidewalks, but some kind of controlling barriers that directs people to stay on the sidewalk, because we basically have a flood of people walking down the middle of the street, for most of the summer. And I mean, we're all being careful and driving slowly, but it's just we're constantly dealing with an unsafe act that happens for 3 months of the year. And then also the alternative pathways to Jackaloff. And I guess I would really like to understand more the things that are causing the problems and whatever solutions that we have. I think having a separate way of directing pedestrian and bike traffic is important, but just kind of is there anything that we can do about, if there's unsafe speeds, or if there are visibility problems, or whatever the actual issues are, so that when those pathways are designed, or if there's any other control measures that can be put into place. And, I'm sure enforcement is another aspect of managing, but just kind of, if we're investing the money, do so that we're really clear about what it is that we can do to help make it be safer for the vehicles and the pedestrians and bikers. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Paul, you had another one?
Yeah, is that on? I couldn't tell who's typing the sticky notes, but mine would be back in angled parking or back in parking, not just angled parking. And then, for the sidewalks in town, Main Street, I think it's a big opportunity to make it safer. And we could maybe fund it with some kind of environmental funding for stormwater control or something like that, and stormwater remediation.
Okay. Anyone else? We're probably getting pretty close to our 10 minutes here.
Yeah, these are great. And I think you guys already started working on our next activity, which Michael's going to bring up as the next mural board. But we're looking into solutions already. So you're telling us where you'd invest your money and what some solutions could be. So we heard sidewalks, pathways, signage, lighting. Actually, we didn't hear lighting. We heard visibility was an issue, and maybe lighting is a countermeasure or a solution that could solve that issue. Striping, painting, I think maintenance is part of that. So if the white lines on the roads aren't maintained, they do fade and wear off, and that creates an issue of, well, you don't know what lane you're in. So I think we've got some really good ideas from the first board that we can pull over to here, but here's some of the other solutions that we've presenting to you as possible solutions. So lighting, improved pedestrian crossings. I think for Seldovia, it sounds like the lack of pedestrian facilities, sidewalks, pathways is part of it. What else do you see here that could be a good solution or countermeasure for your community?
Any additional? Yeah, we did go on a little tangent there when we were supposed to be picking the areas, but we kind of answered a bunch of the questions in our statements there. So
you did, yes.
Any other countermeasures you guys can think of while
they could fund our boardwalk.
Fund the boardwalk. Yeah, that's alternative pedestrian pathways.
No comments about the streets in the summertime because I'm usually washing dishes. See any of the streets.
I think we heard something about like how do we find out like what the issues are with safety, and is it locals that are not aware that they're speeding or acting kind of unsafe within the corridor, or is it like tourism and the visitors? We heard a little bit of both. So there's some, I think, countermeasures here, like there's education, obviously enforcement, we heard that earlier. Signage, which is here. I don't know if you have an issue with like really wide 3 to 4 lanes that could come down to 2 lanes, for example, road diets.
Well, we're actually addressing tonight one of the bigger ones here, which is speed limits.
Yeah.
So we're already doing that.
Hey.
A lot of these wouldn't pertain to us directly in Seldovia as I'm looking. We're not going to convert signals. We don't have any.
Right.
Road diets, we're actually finding out a lot of our roads are not as wide as they need to be. So we actually need to have our roads eat more. And, as you mentioned, pedestrian crossings, that would be a future consideration when we actually have a place for pedestrians to be, because right now they're just everywhere. They're not crossing.
And I think that's due to mainly lack of pedestrian access,
Yes,
right? We just don't
exactly.
have the sidewalks. So that means it's just rather than walking on gravel, I think that's why a lot of people prefer to go on the street, just because they won't lose their footing,
Well, today, I will say I was walking in the middle of the street because everywhere else was a death wish now. But the winter time is not where it's as bad because there's a lot fewer people out. It's when we have all the congestion. Having areas for bicycles, it looks a little different over here, but that's where the multi-use would go. And then
anything on lighting? Do you have a need for like some downtown lighting or other like Jackalope Bay lighting?
No, I think lighting's not a real big issue. When we need to, we light ourselves. But it was talking about like placements of poles. We definitely have some signs, like stop signs and stuff, that are not really where they should be, that definitely make things a little funky for drivers, because you're not actually in line with where you're supposed to stop to where the sign is, to where the road intersection actually occurs. So that's not a big issue, but that's.
Yeah, sight lines,
Yeah.
brushing, those type of things for sure in our community.
Well, like a huge issue in our community is that we have like two big corners. One has a sidewalk and one does not. And as the mayor just mentioned, a lot of people do elect to walk in the road because, the side of the road in a lot of the places is muddy, it's rocky, it's not groomed, it's not a clear sidewalk. And so you'll get people walking on the, on the, let's say the post office side of the road, walking around that curve. And then you'll have people walking on the restaurant side of the road, going around that curve. And then you'll have people driving. And then you'll have kids on bikes who are trying to go around the pedestrians. And so they go into the road. And then you have people driving towards the kids. And there's no signage on that corner at all anywhere. And this summer, there was a change in where people are able to park their boats. Traditionally, they would use. Chili, please go out. Please go out, Chili. Go talk to Dad. Sorry about that. I have kids, so obviously. So this is something that we brought up multiple times throughout this summer, and we had people in the community taking it upon themselves to implement their own safety measures in their own neighborhoods, because it is an increasing issue where as the town is maturing or changing, new property owners come in, or old property owners are looking to develop their property, old standard parking areas or whatever are changing. And so people have decided to park in the middle of the road on that dangerous curve. We don't have enough brushing happening there, as the mayor mentioned. There's no signage. We can't put anything on the street saying don't park here. We can't put anything on the street that says don't walk here. Like, this is a blind corner. And if people don't know that or aren't thinking about that when they're just walking around enjoying the scenery, it creates an untenable traffic area. So when we say things like we need pedestrian walkways, we mean we have none. We have 20 feet of walkway on Main Street in the middle of it, cute little boardwalk. And then I think it's like 50 feet that we have from over by Vivian's house, below Vivian's house, up towards the bridge and across it. And then it turns right back into dirt, and then people are walking right back in the road. So the issue is for everybody who's using it. It's for the kids, it's for the elders, it's for people on recreational vehicles, on foot, in vehicles, in heavy equipment. In the summertime, we have Dibble Creek, and those people don't know us. And sometimes they're driving way faster than they should in those huge trucks. Like, I live on Main Street, I work on Main Street, I have 4 children of my own, I work with the community's children. I'm a heavy walker in this community throughout the year for my entire life. And I feel like as we're going forward and we have more things happening and more diversity in our use in the street in the summer, with more influx of tourism, and then the resurgence of the Dibble Creek usage in our community, we need a solution in the nearest future possible for our pedestrian access. We also need to consider, we don't need streetlights. That's not something that's reasonable here. We don't need anything like that, but we do need appropriate signage stating both the speed limit, but also where is appropriate to walk, where is appropriate to park, and so on. Sorry to go on a tangent there, but all summer I've been saying this. that corner is just a scary one. And as a mom, I always try to direct my children to not go there, but kids are kids and sometimes they have their own opinions.
I think
Thank
Harmony,
you, Harmony.
oh
Yep.
yeah, good point.
Okay, go ahead. Van or Joni. Yeah, I know we're getting short on time here for sure.
We are just gonna wrap it up. I just want to say to Harmony, like her comment about children in the streets. Our streets should be planned and designed in a way that it is safe if a kid is out in the street, that they can be out there, that they're one of the users. So yeah, so just want to wrap up. These are great comments. Thank you so much. These slides don't all, are relevant to every community. We wanted to make sure we put up the full range of solutions, but I think your localized knowledge is exactly why we're here. The things that you need and then the things that you don't need. So that's very helpful. So wrapping up, we mentioned earlier, we have another virtual workshop in January with some recommendations. It'll be community specific. We've got a public workshop 3, a virtual in April. So we'll make sure that we'll have one for Seldovia. And then we have some special meetings coming up. Steering committee meetings are ongoing. We have another, at least 2 to go over recommendations and then the draft plan, and then we do the same thing for the public. And then we're also planning to come back and do the advisory plan commission meetings and planning commission meetings in April as well with the draft plan. And then final adoption is May and June of 2025. And that is all we have. You can always contact us. Liz knows how to get a hold of me or Beth or Joni for additional comments. And then we will be back. We will let you know when we have some draft recommendations to share with you.
Fantastic. It looks like you guys have got a lot of work ahead of you, and thanks for your efforts to date. And yeah, obviously this is all good things going forward to address all these, all the needs, the wants, and the considerations going forward. So appreciate all your guys' hard work on that. Thanks to everyone for their input. That was kind of fast and furious, but we got a lot of information in short order there. So hopefully you guys find some value in that.
You did. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank
thank you
you.
guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Let's see real quick while we've got the Liz, is there anyone let's see on our agenda that concludes that item, and then any one from the public that wishes to have any additional comments regarding this topic? Anyone online signed up?
Signed up online for
Okay.
comments for the work session.
All right, sounds good. Any closing comments before we wrap up the work session?
I just
Go ahead, Randy.
had one observation, and that's there's a comment about we can't do anything about the signage on Main Street. I'm thinking, is that because the state has control of that? And so is there a partnership or an opportunity for collaboration there to actually work together to define what we can do together and then get it done? Because it just seems like there's probably some, in terms of signage, that's probably a low-hanging fruit in terms of what could we do now.
Well, I agree with you. I think there is some low-hanging fruit, and I think there's also some low-hanging fruit in terms of, striping that corner or painting it red and marking it tow away or something like that. I mean, just some really simple, easy stuff, right? So
Yes, thank you.
But all right, good work. Thanks everyone for coming and participating in this. So with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn the work session and take a couple minutes, and we'll come back and start the regular meeting. Thanks.
Liz, can we just stay on this link?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you.